Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Greatest Games podcast brought to you by The Blizzard. My name is Marcus Speller. Opposite me is Jonathan Wilson. And with us today is Oluwashina Okeleji, sports journalist for the BBC, contributor to World Soccer Magazine, Al Jazeera, and many, many more. Sheena, great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for inviting me. I feel like the Higu among the lions, huh?
Well, today, Sheena, we go back to the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinal between Nigeria and Ivory Coast that ended 2-1 to the Super Eagles. Sheena, why have you chosen this match?
Well, I think this game has a very huge significance to Nigeria winning their third African Cup of Nations. Luckily, Jonathan was there, and it wasn't a tournament that started very well for Nigeria. And Ivory Coast made it to the finals in 2012 before 2013. And for Nigeria, after they wobbled and struggled to get into the quarterfinal stage, they've been reading off. The coach was really under severe pressure. He was on his way out. People had written the team off. But this particular game changed the fortunes of the Super Eagles, the fortunes of coach Stephen Keshi, and some of the players that he took to the African Cup of Nations in 2013.
Mm. Jonathan, the tournament was hosted in South Africa that year, and as Sheena says, Zambia obviously won the previous tournament, 2012, with Nigeria not qualifying at all. Ivory Coast finished runners up, and so this tournament happened a year later from the 2012 tournament. Of course, every year the tournament is every 2 years. Sorry, should I say? What were you thinking going into this tournament? What did you think of Nigeria? Did you think that they were among the favourites, as they often had been in previous tournaments?
I'd been burned by Nigeria before.
Well,
I mean, yeah, the context of the tournament is worth talking about. That they decided, CAF had decided to change the odd numbered years, so it wasn't in World Cup years anymore.
Mhm.
Which I can sort of see the logic of. It created other issues as well, but I can see that when it was in a World Cup year, you had players going away to two tournaments in the same year, and that clearly creates all kinds of problems. South Africa stepped in relatively late as hosts. It was meant to be in Libya, and they switched it around. South Africa had 2017, Libya 2013. They swapped them over because Libya never did host it in 2017 for obvious reasons. And one of the consequences of this was that although South Africa obviously had all the stadiums from the World Cup, the pitch in Nelspruit, which is where Nigeria were based, or they were based. What was that place? It was actually the first time we met, wasn't it, Sheena, during this tournament?
Mbumbela, they were
Yeah,
based in Mbumbela. Yeah, next week, that's where
in
Nigeria.
Nelspruit, but they were in
Yeah.
that little town. Was it called like White Rapids or something? That little town just above Nelspruit.
Yeah, I've forgotten the name, but I know it's just in some funny hotel hidden somewhere very close to a reserve or something. I think it was a games reserve or somewhere. They were hidden somewhere in there. It's called Mbumbela or whatever.
Yeah.
They
Well,
yeah
Bella and Nelspruit are the same place, so that there were two
yeah
names for that. But this was like this small place. I think it was something like White Rapids, and I first met you at a Stephen Keshi press conference, and
yes that's good.
there was the classic Nigeria thing going on of kind of you looked at the players and it's obviously this is a strong squad, but you sort of think, well, we've been saying this every year since '94, and Nigeria at that time they won only two Cups of Nations, and if you look at the Nigerians' strength as a football nation, the number of Nigerians who play at the very highest level in Europe,
Mm.
they should have done a lot better than that. So always with Nigeria, you have this sense of underachievement kind of dragging the squad down, and that leads. It's not unlike England in the sense of there's this great expectation, this great pressure, this sort of sense of they don't quite live up to the ability they have, and that then creates quite a hostile media environment. And there's I mean, as an outsider, there's genuinely no sport in the world more fun than a Nigeria press conference.
Would you share that opinion, Sheena? A Nigerian press conference and the press around the team can be a little bit interesting, to say the least. Being a part of it yourself.
Absolutely. It's always fierce. It's always one between the coach and local media who are always baying for attention, I should say. It's always tension soaked. Everyone has things on their mind. People coming to the Nigerian pressers, some with a target for the coach. I think back in 1994, we had a Dutch coach, the man who led Nigeria to their first World Cup. That's Clemens Vesterhoff. He said
Mm.
it's aptly when he said, in Nigeria, there are 150 million coaches, but I am the only technical advisor. So, meaning everyone has an opinion on how the team should shape up, who should play, who shouldn't play. So it's always fears, and it's Jonathan is right. I mean, we always call it the drama before the Nollywood itself, because that's where everything you need to let out. You rip at the coach, you rip at the captain. Everyone wants to let something out, so it's always
Mm.
one to look forward to.
So I mean, the thing I remember about that first press conference specifically uh, is that Stephen Keshi, the coach, who was a very tough man, a very single minded man. I think if you're going to be coaching Nigeria, you've got to be very very clear in your own. You've got to be very confident in your own judgments. And anybody who lets the slightest doubt creep in, they're going to be drowned in all these 150 million opinions. 150 million opinions expressed very forcibly. But the squad he picked, I think I might say that there was four players from Nigerian league in that squad,
Six,
which was
six,
very controversial at the time, and that was the huge
yeah,
topic of conversation at first press conference.
Mm. I mean,
yeah,
what was
absolutely.
ha- Sheena? How did you find, of course, the late Stephen Keshi now, of course, as Jonathan said, he didn't suffer fools really, and was quite the character. How did you personally find him?
Um, unfortunately, Stephen Keshi passed away, so it's
Yeah,
always emotional talking about him
of
in the
course.
past tense now.
Mm.
Um, I'm so I have a bias towards Stephen Keshi, but a lot of people disagree with this. They always feel like there's always something in my heart that I always have against him. But unbeknown to a lot of people, this was a man who singled me out in 1999. I was a young guy on TV. I was always going after the officials, talking about the corruption in the system. So it took a liking, and he invited me. I sat with him in 2000 when he was assistant coach to Shaibu Amodu. So that was where we built our relationship from. So by the time he came on, no, in 2012, some of the officials, okay, took over after we failed to qualify for the Afcon. So in
Mm.
2011 was when he took over. But prior to that, it was he and Samson Siasia that were interviewed for the coach. Someone from the federation rang me. I had no clue, and they were saying, if you had to choose between Stephen Keshi and Samson Siasia, who would you go for? Without blinking, I said Stephen Keshi. They said, why? I said, he's been out there. He's gone to Togo. He's gone to Mali, and he's established himself. So I said to them, I'll go for Stephen Keshi. But Samson Siasia was riding on his success with the under 20s and the under 23s. So the federation, in their own wisest wisdom or whatever, they opted for Samson Siasia. I was already in touch with Stephen Keshi. We were talking. I met him a few days when he qualified Togo for their first AFCON in 2005 in Lomé. He invited me to Bamako in Mali. So we sort of built a relationship. But you see, as a journalist, it's always difficult for you to be unbiased, to say this and that. But Stephen Keshi knew where I stand. I told him, like, this was why you wanted me to be your friend. This was why you picked me out back then when I was a scrawny young reporter. So we built a relationship. Sometimes he ran me over. He ran his team squad over with me. We talk about it. You are in
Really?
Europe, what do you think of this player? I've heard about him. We always have that relationship. But when it
Mm.
comes to the public perception, I'm someone who come at him. I'm critical of his team. So he called me his biggest fan and his biggest critic. So it was a mutual relationship and respect between us. So for me, whenever I see him at press conference, I really ask him questions because everything I want to ask him, I already know. But sometimes I just feel like, you know what, it's important to do my job and just ask him these questions. So he's a very strong-willed guy.
Mhm.
It's Stephen Keshi's way or the highway. He wanted to stamp the authority as the local coach whom the federation needed to respect. So his choice. I mean, in 2013, like Jonathan pointed out, he left out Peter Odemwingie, who didn't like that. And as usual, we know with Peter Odemwingie, he's a keyboard warrior. He went on Twitter, he slammed the coach, insulted everyone, criticized criticized the federation, the coach, the media, and and people felt Stephen Keshi should have picked Odemwingie. To be honest, in the last 2 decades, Peter Odemwingie turns out to be the most committed player we've had in the Super Eagles. He was always running. People always said maybe it's the mixed blood in his head. Sometimes he's evil is good. So when things are going his way, he's Peter Odemwingie. When things don't go his way, they see him as the Russian guy who's lost
I see.
everything. So he's always there. But Keshi stood his ground. He left out the likes of Obafemi Martins. Kanu Wankwo was on his way out. Okocha had retired. John Otaka was omitted. Sheyi Olofinjano was left out. Yusuf Ayila, all of the players who had built up the Super Eagles, Keshi left them out. He picked 6 players from the local scene. That didn't go well with the fans. He picked 16th debutant at the African Cup of Nations. People were like, what's wrong with this guy? And some people just didn't expect him to do anything, but he stood his ground. So every press conference, that question, like Jonathan pointed out, that question always comes up. This man, are you for us or are you against us? Do you want to win our third Afcon or you want us to just go there and be regarded as the super chickens, a tag that we've left behind? So it was always that battle with Stephen Keshi, but he was his own man. He lived by his words. He lived by his own choices. And in 2013, I felt we saw a man that was pushed to the wall. And we will come to this game, like you said, but this game against Cote d'Ivoire for Stephen Keshi, his first professional club outside Nigeria was in Ivory Coast when he was banned, and he had issues and he left the country, went to Ivory Coast. He built his reputation there on his way to Belgium as a player. He had a lot to prove to everyone in Nigeria and in Africa that he was a top A coach, and Rustenberg provided him that opportunity, a better ground than the Nesprit ground that was only good to take your cow and your it was just a terrible ground. So when we went to Rustenberg, Keshi had the lush ground to play the game that I wanted to play, and that's why this game is so important.
That point about the pitch in Nelspruit is a serious one. That being generous is because South Africa didn't have much time to prepare for the tournament, and the pitch had got wet or something, and there was a fungal infection, and there was just no grass on the pitch. It was just green sand, and it was a terrible, terrible pitch, and you couldn't play football on it. And all the games in Elspeth were horrendously bad games of football, and I think as a result, we underestimated how good Nigeria were, and there was probably a sense of them sort of building as the tournament went on, feeling their way into the tournament, and also probably the reason Burkina Faso, I mean, although they did well in the quarters and the semi, but the reason that they were able to get through the group was because you couldn't really play football on that pitch. So it was quite easy to defend on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gentlemen, let's have a quick break, after which we'll talk about the quarterfinal itself from the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations. See you in a minute, everybody. Welcome back to the Greatest Games, everybody. Now, let's talk about the tournament itself. So, Nigeria, they were in Group C in the first round, along with Burkina Faso. You mentioned earlier, Jonathan, Zambia, who were the holders, and Ethiopia. They drew their first 2 games, 1-1 with Burkina Faso, late equaliser from Burkina Faso, and then 1-1 with Zambia, another late equaliser from their opponents. But they beat Ethiopia 2-0 with 2 late goals of their own from Victor Moses, both penalties. And Sheena, were people concerned with Nigeria's, I suppose one could perceive it as a slow start, drawing their first 2 games and then leaving it late to beat Ethiopia?
Absolutely. That dull 1-1 draw against Burkina Faso, another boring 1-1 draw with defending champion Zambia, that followed. And then, angry fans were calling for the sack of the coach. They wanted the federations to, officials to just quit, something that would never happen in Nigeria anyway. So, like the story in the Bible, Moses' 2 late penalties, against Ethiopia sealed a second place finish in the group. And, that's quarterfinal against Ivory Coast. They in Rustenburg, because they played Ethiopia in Rustenburg, I think. So they had to travel back and forth to Ethiopia, and the sense amongst the Nigerian fans was that Stephen Keshi rode his luck against Ethiopia. The team didn't really look convincing. Um, the fans were actually now calling for those players left out, saying, "Look, it's it's clear now that the coach didn't know exactly what to do." So there was, the hair of pessimism around the team.
Mm-hmm.
Usually Nigerian fans will go into games, being optimistic and all that, but now they were just angry, bitter, angry, upset. They wanted Keshi gone. So no one really thought the Super Eagles could manage to come into that game and do what they did. Guess what? Before this game, they had absolutely booked tickets for the team to return to Nigeria
Wow.
on the night of the game against Ivory Coast. Officials just said, you know what, we don't want to waste too much money, spending money on hotels, players changing their tickets. They called the welfare officer, boom, get the tickets for everyone, find out where they're going from here, get them away from South Africa that night. So that's
That's
why,
incredible.
like Jonathan said, the group game actually gave Nigeria the chance to actually book an early flight for the Eagles.
I mean, it's
That's a
worth
lot.
it's worth pointing out if a that game against Ethiopia, Moses' first penalty is the 80th minute.
Mm.
If that doesn't go in, Nigeria go out on yellow cards.
Mm,
Zambia would have gone
Blimey.
through on yellow cards because, and you mentioned their late equaliser. What you didn't mention was that was a penalty taken by their goalkeeper, Kennedy Mwina.
Well, yeah. Okay.
So
An important
it's going
detail.
to be one of the great farces. I mean, Nigerian football is full of these magnificent farces, but this is going to be one of the biggest ones. And then, fortunately for them, unfortunately for Keshi, Moses gets those two late penalties, and so they go through. But the Ivory Coast were clear favourites for that game,
Yeah.
but partly because they'd been playing in Rustenburg where the pitch was better. But they'd beaten Togo. They'd beaten Tunisia very convincingly. They played a second string side against Algeria, gone 2-0 down, drawn 2-2. Um, Cote d'Ivoire, as well as Nigeria, maybe even more than Nigeria, had this sense of unfulfilled potential. That
Mm.
they'd only won the Cup of Nations once, which was back in '92, so 2 years before Nigeria's were the champions for the last
second
time before
time
this
too.
tournament. Yeah, the second time, the last time before this tournament. Um, and they had their golden generation of
Mm-hmm.
Drogba and the Tourés and Javinho and um,
Kalou, Abue.
Sheikh Tiote.
Yeah.
It's a genuinely one of the great generations of African footballers, and there was a definite sense that time was running out, and of course they would then win it under your great mate Hervé Renard 2 years later, but this really felt like, because to be honest, by 2015 they were past their best.
Mm-hmm.
Drogba had gone by then. This felt like this is it. This is last chance saloon for Cote d'Ivoire, and it's
Mm-hmm.
always last chance saloon for Nigeria.
Yeah.
They just don't drink anywhere else. Sorry.
Yeah, but extraordinary that, as you say, when you look at it like that, Nigeria have disappointed. Semi-final seemed to be their ceiling. They hadn't been in the final since the year 2000, and bearing in mind the tournament was every 2 years up until 2012. Obviously, we talked about that earlier. That year change, it had been quite disappointing. And this was Ivory Coast, and it was like, surely now here's a Nigeria side that have already booked their plane tickets home, that we just found out, and it obviously it didn't go that way. I mean, going into the game, Sheena, you must have feared for Nigeria, and you probably wouldn't have thought that they would end up winning it 2-1.
Absolutely. They went into the game with a lot of authenticity as well, because Keshi had tried out everything he wanted to do. The focal point going into that tournament was striker Ikechukwu Uche. He returned from two back-to-back ACL injuries, and he fired Nigeria as top. He was the top scorer during qualifying, but against in the group stage, he didn't really fire. And Keshi's tactical game was, he wanted power play. He wanted players who could actually give you power, because he's been in African football for so long. people always say Nigerians are physical, but when you look at the Ivorians and the Cameroonians, then you know Nigerians are really, really not physical. They just have the flair. So Ikechukwu
Yeah.
Uche, one of the best players in the squad, with the flair and ability to turn his marker and do things, but he couldn't perform in Nesprit, and then he came into this game with so much. Keshi just wanted to do things differently, so people didn't really expect so much. Like I said, the fans were already, tearing the team apart. So-called experts were dissecting what went wrong on the eve of the game, and then on match day, the local radio stations in Nigeria, they are saying how the coach should never come near the national team ever again. Avirena, who didn't even make it to the quarterfinals, was being spoken to. The federation had gone to Avirena. They wanted him to replace Keshi. Keshi heard about all of this because, like I said, he was close to a lot of people. He was close to power. He knew exactly what was going on. I couldn't verify this story, but I understand that Avirena put a call across to him and said to him, "Look, your people are speaking to me." And he knew about this, and he was aware that they wanted him out. So it was kind of a game you go into. Your fans are against you. The media wanted you out. Your federations are going behind your back. The welfare officer had been ordered to buy you tickets. Secretary had already started sorting out bonus for your previous game. The bonus for this match you're about to play had already been taken back to the FA because they expect you to go home empty-handed. So all of these things stack against you. John Mikel Obi came out and said, before the game, saying a lot of people are written us off, but we want to prove to them we're better. Stephen Keshi himself just came out and said, I want to go and play football. The rest of the story going on, I don't want to know. We just want to play. It's Nigeria against Ivory Coast. That is what is in front of me. Some people were baiting him. Are you going to quit? Are you going to resign after this game? But I think they were just testing fate, and that was exactly what happened. And the fans, I think they had all given up. Everyone just rolled the team off, and there was a sense of nothing was going to happen. The Super Eagles were definitely flying home.
Yeah. Well, the pressure was then taken off inadvertently, I suppose, Jonathan, and so that was a helping hand. And also in the actual match itself, Nigeria perhaps given a little helping hand, or not given a helping hand. I don't know quite how to word it when Boubacar Barry's involved, but
Poor Boubacar Barry.
yeah, who would be the hero 2 years later?
He was the hero 2 years later. I mean,
Fortunately for
which
him.
makes it one of the great stories. And I'm glad,
Yeah,
I'm delighted for him. And
yeah,
I'd spent so many years. I'd spent like a decade writing about this Ivorian team. It's from 2 to 11. It's brilliant, but it's number one. It really isn't at the same level as the rest. And he was just this goalkeeper who had this habit of making. He made good saves, but he also just had this terrible habit of making terrible mistakes. And then
yeah,
thankfully he scored a penalty in the shootout and saved a couple of penalties in the shootout against Ghana in 2015. So he was a hero when they finally won it. But this game, so in the first half, there's not a huge amount happens. There's a couple of long range efforts, which I don't know if Nigeria were deliberately targeting Barry if they sort of thought, yeah, he's the weak spot there. But Moses and Emenike both had decent chances. And then it's just before half time, so I think 43rd minute, they get a free kick, and it's miles out. It's at least
yeah,
30 yards out. A classic tap it to the side to take the ball out of the equation. And Emenike really catches it. He strikes it
yeah.
absolutely beautifully.
It's a great hit, but it's very
But
central.
it's very central. It does swerve slightly, but it doesn't even swerve that late.
Was it
And
a Jabulani? That's what
it
I want to
wasn't a
know. Is South
Jabulani,
Africa
no.
still using the Jabulani footballs, maybe?
And Boubacar Barry sort of puts his fists up, and it just misses them and goes into the back of the net. And at first you look at it and you think, that's a brilliant goal, because you just seen how hard he's hit it. And then you see the replay, you think, oh, God, Boubacar, you've done it again.
Oh, Paul Barry. But it was 1-0. They went ahead and went in at half time with a surprising 1-goal lead. You probably were in disbelief at this point, maybe.
Yeah, I think around the media center, also in the media tribune, some of the fans, some of the journalists were just asking questions like, "What's going on with Ivory Coast?" I think a lot of credit should go to Stephen Keshi. He had his
Yeah,
game plan, and a lot. I think people took their eyes off the Nigerian side because of all the things we've talked about, their inability to convince people that they were really a super Eagles. And Keshi, for all of the criticism, this was one match that he got his tactics spot on. So what he realized was that the physicality of the likes of Yaya, Romaric, and Didier Zokora in the midfield. So what he did was try to cut out the energetic dominance of the Ivory Coast in midfield. You had a player like Ogenye Onazi, tiny player compared to Yaya Toure. Yaya Toure's thighs alone could sit him down on the floor him completely. But Nigeria
Mm.
were just denying them of the ball. They didn't let them really dominate play. And the way Ivory Coast came back was a shocker because I think Sabri Lamouchi must have discovered during the first half that the likes of Didi Drogba, who you would expect to be physical, were really caught out. For that free kick, Jonathan, I don't know if you remember, Drogba was the one taking the set piece, and then rather than contesting the header like you would expect in the box, so it wasn't really anything tactical in my opinion. But I just thought like maybe they found out that look, Drogba could have the ball all day. Kenneth Omeru will kick him out. Obuabona will kick him away, and he just couldn't get the ball to him. So he went and took the free kick. And Sheikh Tiote, God bless his soul, with that leveler. And then the story switch again all of a sudden. Fans who were already dancing and singing
Yeah.
now say, okay, we've said it. This team is
Yeah,
rubbish.
yeah, yeah.
They have to go home. Keshi, yeah. It was hilarious. Like you sit down there and you could hear the Nigerian supporters club. These guys are the official supporters club, but they had given up already, and they started saying, "No, Keshi, what are you doing?" Keshi wasn't on the pitch or wasn't on the pitch, but he had to be the target man.
But yeah, I mean that was sort of my reaction as well. That kind of I'd expected the Ivorians to be much better than they'd been in the first half. I think you're absolutely right. I think that because it was sort of a 4-3-3 come 4-2-3-1, wasn't it? That sort of that
Yes.
hybrid midfield. So you had
Mm.
an Nazi sitting deep with Michael John Obi sort of alongside him and pushing forward, and then Sunday and Bar who had a brilliant tournament, and he really vindicated Keshi's faith in him because he was one of those domestic based players. He was where was he? Was it Wari Wolves at the time? I
Yeah,
think,
it
or
was
maybe he
with
got out
Body
on
Wolves.
loan.
Yeah.
But yeah, but he had an outstanding tournament. The three of them in the middle of midfield, none of them. If you look at their direct counterparts of Romerick, Yaya Toure, and Cheick Tiote, you would say the Ivorians are better in each position, but the unit was able to kind of to keep a lid on them. And I think you're right as well about Drogba. I think by this stage of his career, Drogba was not the physical player he'd been 10 years earlier. He'd learned how to, he was technically also very good, but he's a different type of forward. And he was physically being overwhelmed by the two Nigerian centre backs. And then he actually, he wins, it's 5 minutes after half time. He wins the free kick out on the left. And it is a one free kick. I mean, it is a foul, but he's won it. He turns and he knows exactly where the defender's leg is and he goes over it. And then he takes the free kick. And it was such a soft goal because there was,
Mm.
three Ivorians queuing up at the back post. Cheick Tiote who heads it in. And I don't know. I, as a sort of neutral, was thinking, that's Nigeria's chance gone. Soft goal just after half time. Ivorians are back in it. But actually, it wasn't like that at all. It then played out exactly as the first half had played out.
Yeah. Now with 12 minutes left, Sheena, Sunday Umba scores a lovely winner. It was a great run, a little bit of a fortuitous deflection,
Yeah.
but still, the ball ended up in the back of the net. And I mean, I'm guessing once again, you and the rest of Nigeria were quite surprised to see your team go in front again.
Yeah, you told the game had you know, definitely gone back in the hands of Lamouchi, and he knew exactly what he was doing. But I think the key thing that happened before that goal was the fact that Kenneth Omeru had the confidence to intercept a loose ball, even push forward and play the ball out to the left where Sunday Bar was just standing. It was you would think he was going to give the ball to Echejile on the left, who was running, but then Echejile was like a sort of decoy, so he just zipped this short across goal, and before you knew it, Solbamba was the one taking deflection this time around, and of course, Uncle Barry was nowhere to be found, dancing the Ivorian Makosa, and the ball just went past him, and Nigerians were in disbelief because yeah, like you said, Sunday Mba, who would have thought one of Keshi's, in the words of a lot of people, downfall, picking some players in the local scene. He had been with them for a year. He knew exactly what these players could do. So Sunday Mba was the hero of the day. Nigeria got that goal. Ivory Coast fought. They wanted to level. But it was the day of the Eagles. And I think after all they've been through, the criticism, Victor Moses was just urging the players not to sleep at the back. That was where you found experienced heads, players like Vincent Enyama in goal, Joseph Yobo, who was, of course, the captain but wasn't starting. And the team came together because during the course of this tournament, Yobo and Keshi had fallen out. Yobo said he didn't want to be the captain who didn't play and lifted the trophy like Keshi in 1994. Keshi said he wasn't good enough and it wasn't really because I think they blamed him for the goal against Zambia and Burkina Faso in the opening game. So there was that fight, but Yobo was like the assistant coach, standing up, telling the players not to let sleep, and it was unbelievable. In Lagos, and that's how the Nigerian fans are. I don't know how to describe them. 1 minute, they seem like they want you for the sacrifice in Africa. They want to offer you for ritual to the gods. The next minute, they are praising you to high heavens and saying you are the best thing after sliced bread.
Yeah.
And it was just unbelievable
Yeah.
night.
So when they won the game, did it turn to full on expectation again? Right, we're going to win the tournament. I'm guessing that was how people reacted.
Not really, no. I think the fact that they had beaten Ivory Coast, who finished runners up, I think it was a matter of now everyone coming back to be served cold humble pie from Stephen Keshi. It was a matter of the NFF, they left Rustenberg with tail firmly between their legs, and people were trying to sneak out. But Keshi was looking out for them. He
I bet
wanted
he
because
was. Yeah.
Stephen Keshi. He always wants to have the last word. He always
Yeah.
is huge laughter. Keshi is a proper brawler, man. He
Yeah.
wanted everyone, but they had all disappeared. So no, people were not looking too far ahead. Because when you look at
Yeah.
the team they were going to play, with due respect, I don't think at that point they had realized they were playing Mali or they knew already. So people weren't looking too far ahead. All they wanted to do was, bask in the euphoria of this success, go
Yeah.
on social media, listen on radio, wait for the NFF to come to the hotel room. And now the team secretary is in trouble. He has bought a ticket. What does he do
Yeah, but
with
did they get
it?
the money back for the tickets? That's what I want to know.
No, they didn't get him. Look, we are broke people. We don't have. We are always looking for money. Have you forgotten? So it was a big problem. They got into trouble with that. The
Oh
guy
no.
was, so it was. No, I don't think they were looking too far ahead on the night. People just wanted to
Yeah,
enjoy it.
you're right. That game was they knew they were playing the winner of South Africa v Mali, which was down in Durban. I think the following day because I saw both games and I remember going down to Durban
Mm,
and you're playing South Africa in South Africa. Obviously, would have been a very very different prospect of facing Mali.
mm,
And that game, South Africa Mali, was an absolutely incredible occasion. Um, I just remember, it's in that amazing stadium in Durban, the Moses Madiba
mm,
Stadium, and the I just remember the national anthem before, and it was a real sort of hairs on the back of the neck because that probably was the South Africa's best moment in the last 10, 15 years on a
mm.
football pitch. And then Mali went and won it.
Oh dear.
And I think had it been against South Africa in the semi final would have been much harder.
It would have
I
been
mean, the one
difficult.
thing after the goal, and it was one of those goals you sometimes get when even though there was still 12 minutes to go, it just deflated the opposition, and
Yeah.
Cote d'Ivoire barely threatened, apart from there's I think it's Tiote who plays the ball into the box to I think it's Lassina Traore who gets it, and he's got Drogba to one side of him and Yaya Toure to the other, and he fractionally hesitates, almost like having the two choices of do I lay it off to right to the left, maybe I have a shot, and that just allowed Mikel to get a tackle in, and it's a brilliantly timed tackle. It's right in the middle of the box. If he gets that wrong by a fraction of a second, it's a penalty, but he doesn't. He times it just right. But that really was the only chance that Cote d'Ivoire had in the last 12 minutes.
Mm. Well, they marched on to the semi-final, of course, and handily beat Mali 4-1, setting up a final with Burkina Faso, which was a replay of their first round game, which had ended 1-1. I mean, what was the mood like in Nigeria and among the Nigerian press, Sheena, when they beaten Mali 4-1 in the semi-finals. Very, very, convincing result. They're in the final against Burkina Faso, a side that they know they can beat. Surely that people were behind the side and getting behind Keshi at this point.
No, I think it was after the win against Mali that people actually got behind Stephen Keshi.
Yeah, yeah.
They hadn't, before this tournament in 2013, we shouldn't forget that Samson Siasia, who was coach before Stephen Keshi, the man he replaced, had failed to qualify Nigeria for the Afcon in 2012. It was the first time Nigeria didn't qualify in 25 years. So I think going there after announcing his squad and then the struggles, the way the team was, I think people just didn't believe anything. So the way and manner they beat Mali was a comprehensive victory against Mali, and people were like, okay, Super Eagles don't go 4-0 ahead. No, no, they don't. They are always struggling. Their wings are always clipped. So it was a matter of two Eagles in Durban, and the way they beat Mali, then fans now turned up and said, guess what? We are playing Burkina Faso. At that point, we weren't sure if Jonathan Petroipa was going to be cleared to play in the final. CAF had to come in on the eve of the game to say you will play. Fans are like, okay, cool. We struggled against them on that terrible pitch in Esprit. Come bring us to the Soccer City Stadium.
Mhm.
We need to beat them. And you start asking yourself, are these not the same over 180 million people who wanted the coach gone, who wanted everyone gone? Now they were all supporting the team. And then, the Nigerian fans in South Africa, just for you to understand, there's a huge Nigerian community in South Africa, especially in Johannesburg. And so they all turn up, and South Africa and Nigeria don't get along. So you saw the South Africans, they were obviously for the Burkina Bees. They wanted Burkina Faso to win. There's that undefined relationship between. It's a matter of who is the giant of Africa. Nigeria believe in size and population. Before South Africa and the apartheid era ended, Nigeria always felt like the big brother in Africa. South Africa came with a big economy and all of that. So there's this arrogance. Our music is better than yours. Our women are more beautiful than yours. We play better football. You stole our trophy in '96 because we didn't come there. We gave it to Mandela because we needed to honor him. So there's this, there's this,
Right. Okay.
So for the final, Nigerian fans turned up, and unbelievable nights. Sunday by again. I don't know where
What a goal as
Jonathan
well.
was, but I was definitely, for the first time as a journalist, celebrated Nigerian final victory because it was a long time we celebrated something good, Olympic gold in '96, and now Stephen Keshi. I was happy for him. I
Mm,
felt like people were unfair to him, and that victory actually, before every other thing that happened, that sealed Stephen Keshi's place in the hearts of millions of Nigeria as undoubtedly one of the finest coach to have come out of Nigeria.
absolutely. Sheena, it's been a pleasure talking to you about this match in this tournament as well, and of course talking about the late great Stephen Keshi. But yeah, a great and needed win for Nigeria, and it was nice as well that Sunday Umba, who played the majority of his career in Nigeria, would later play in towards the end of his career in I think France and Turkey very briefly. But it was nice for a guy who played locally in Nigeria to score the winning goal, and what a goal it was, Jonathan! A beautiful finish.
Oh yeah, fantastic goal. Yeah, yeah, and it was just the ultimate vindication for Keshi.
Mm,
But
yeah.
even then, the press conference after the final, the thing I still remember is still all these rumors going on. He's going to be sacked. Renard's going to get the job.
Yeah. Amazing. It never ends. It's never a dull moment with the Nigeria national football team.
I think I
Sheena.
think I think just if you still have time, it's important to also realize something that for Stephen Keshi, not just vindication, it was also the beginning of his fight for African countries to put their trust in African managers.
Mm,
He often spoke about this openly, but for him as a Nigerian winning the Afcon as the first Nigerian to lead the team to success, it was a matter of put your trust in us as Africans, as
mm,
Nigerians, trust us, local managers, and we can do it. So for Stephen Keshi, it was more than just a vindication. It was an opportunity to make the statement clear. And every time it comes to his anniversary, the thoughts of Nigerian fans are like, I don't. There's a sense of treating him poorly, Even though I felt to an extent that he overstayed after the World Cup, I think he should have left because Nigeria didn't. The problem that started after that success in South Africa was the sole reason why Nigeria didn't qualify for the Afcon again for, I mean, two successions, like two Afcons back to back, they didn't qualify. So I think for him, it was a matter of he wanted, I think he overstayed, but his place in Nigerian football history will forever be respected. The most successful black African coach, in my opinion, because he took Nigeria to the round of 16. I thought he should have walked away, but his legacy could not be tainted. And I think that's why people still revere him back home in Nigeria.
Yeah, and I think it's not just what he did with Nigeria. I mean, that clearly is the the highlight. But don't forget, he qualified Togo for
Yeah.
the World Cup.
Yeah.
His achievements are extraordinary.
Absolutely. Sheena, it's been a pleasure talking to you about this. Thank you very much for joining us on The Greatest Games, brought to you by The Blizzard, of course. Do check out theblizzard.co.uk for more stories like this. But until next week, thank you very much, Sheena. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jonathan, as always.
Cheers,
See
thank you.
very, very soon.